Alright guys, welcome back to today's video. Stephen Howell here, and I'm excited to talk about this topic because I get a lot of questions on this. So it's how to find cheap property for sale. So real estate investing made simple. One of the biggest things, to talk about in real estate investing, no matter what niche of real estate investing you're in, is we want to be able to find discounted, below market value properties so that there can be a profit made, right? That's why we're getting into real estate investing, is to make a profit, right? So one of the questions that comes up is like, oh my goodness, Stephen, like, how in the world do you find cheap properties? How do you find discounted properties that you or another investor can make money on? Okay, so what I want to talk about today, and there's a lot of different avenues we can go here, so I want to keep this pretty focused. And if you guys like this topic, if this resonates with you, definitely let me know in the comments, and we can do more on this because there's a lot to talk about with this. There's a lot of avenues we can go, and I want this to be really valuable for you. So when we're thinking of how in the world do we find discounted property, how do we find cheap houses, one of the things that I want you to think about, especially in this market, is an objection that comes up a lot. And I know when I first got started, this was something that, like, for whatever reason, like, it just didn't make sense for me. I'm like, why would someone want to sell their property for such a huge discount? Like, how are properties being sold for 40, 50, 60, 70 cents on the dollar, 80 cents on the dollar? Like, I just don't understand that. Like, I understand maybe giving a little bit of a discount, but how in the world is that possible? And at the time of this recording in this video, January 5th, 2018, it's still a very, very hot real estate market. So something you might be wondering is like, Stephen, how, like, in this market, when someone could almost just go put a sign in their front yard and sell their house, like, how are investors like myself and like the students that I work with across the country, how are they able to get a deal under contract for 30% off, 40% off, and allow there to be profit margins there? Like, how is that even possible? So one of the things we want to talk about here, and this is a huge distinction, and I could have labeled this video where to find cheap property, where to find discounted property for real estate investing. So wherever you're at in real estate investing, you want to find property that has value, that has equity, and that's beneficial, right? That's an investment, right? There's money in some way, shape, or form to be made, and a lot of the time that can happen when we get a discounted or a cheap property. Now, I'm not talking about we should just go get a super, super low-end house in the worst part of town for a super, super cheap price, and that's the only way to make it in real estate. No, me personally, certainly I've done those type of deals where I've picked up just a cheap house and wholesaled it to an end buyer, for 10K, 15K, that type of thing. But me personally, I found those deals to be even a little bit more stressful, and you don't make a lot of money from them typically, although there are some exceptions. And when you're advertising those deals to other, partners or somebody that you're trying to sell the deal to, it's not the most attractive thing. You're like, yeah, I have this shack in the ghetto, and it's half of it's burnt down, and it's just not a very appealing thing, right? So I'm not saying that you have to go out there and find some completely run down, horribly cheap property that's barely standing up. More so, how to find property that has value built in. So where do we do that? Well, the key distinction is we want to start fishing in a different pond than what most people are doing. I was lucky enough to have a mentor early on, teach me that, Stephen, while everyone else is zigging, we want to be zagging. We want to be going in the opposite direction. It's similar to Warren Buffett in the stock market, right? When everyone else is selling their stocks and freaking out in a certain market, Warren Buffett and other savvy investors are loading up and they're buying while things are low. So we want to kind of keep that in mind. So while everyone out there is going on the MLS to look for deals, going to realtors and other avenues, finding out what's on the market, or maybe going to a local real estate auction and bidding for properties, when we do that, in this particular market, it puts us at a great disadvantage, because now we're competing with absolutely everyone, and honestly, everybody knows about those deals. Those are not where the good real estate investment properties are. So where do we go for cheap property with value built in? We go off market. Okay. So that's one of the biggest distinctions that I want you to have, is when you are building your real estate business, when you're going after discounted property with value built in, we want to focus our efforts solely on off-market properties. Okay, so now we're going to move on to part 2 of this, to step 2. So we could actually label this, part 1 or step number 1 there. So the second piece of this, right? And this is even before this is very closely actually tied in with motivation, but it really comes down to like putting ourselves in the shoes of the motivated seller who is basically looking to get rid of their property quickly. So if we think about this, where there's a motivated seller that has to get rid of their property quickly, right? And they're willing to sell it for a little bit of a discount. What we want to do is we want to start thinking like, okay, first of all, like, who is this motivated seller? What is it that they're going through actually? Where are they hanging out? Where can I reach them? And how can I actually offer up some value to them to maybe stand out from the competition? So I want you to go about this, and as you can see, we're kind of thinking at this from a little bit different angle, and that's going to allow us to position ourselves as a solution for these off-market deals, because they're there, right? So what am I talking about specifically when I'm talking about motivation? So there are certain situations where someone does have a property and they need to get rid of it quickly. And if you need to get rid of it quickly, that is a good opportunity for you to be willing, if you have an investor, to come in and say, hey, I'll pay cash for your property. I can close very quickly. You don't have to worry about listing it with a realtor on the MLS. You don't have to worry about realtor commissions. I just want to buy it outright from you, right? There's an opportunity for a massive discount there, or at least a substantial discount, enough for an investor to make a profit. So those are the type of deals that we're looking at. And so we can talk more and more about that particular subject of it in future videos, and I have a strong inclination that you're going to want to hear more about that. So definitely let me know in the comments below if you want to dive into the different avenues there. But just to not leave you hanging, right, I want to do right by this video, the topic. So a couple of proven areas where people are motivated, right, are if someone is going through, if there's some type of distress going on with the property, right? If the house is in utter disrepair and it just needs a ton of work, and the thought of them doing the work themselves, it just completely stresses them out, and they're like, you know what, like, if I were to try to list this on the MLS, it probably wouldn't sell fast anyways, and the realtor might have me clean up the property or do certain things. So properties that are in distress definitely make a great target. What happens if someone is relocating? They got a new job across the country. They have to move in 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe their house was paid off and they just need to get a decent price for it. They're willing to take a little bit of a discount because they're kind of under the gun. They need to move. And so relocation is another great one. What about the tired landlord who has a portfolio of rental properties? Maybe he owns 10 or 15 rental properties. Maybe she, has only a couple of properties, but she has that 1 or 2 pesky rental properties that are just a pain in the rear, and rather than walk foot in that rental, that the tenants just moved out, and rather than having to renovate the rental property and walk foot in that and start the whole dreadful process again, that landlord would rather just go ahead and cash out on that particular property. Do you think that would make for a motivation factor where someone would be willing to take a little bit of a discount? Absolutely, right? That can be a very, very good one. What happens if someone in the family passes away and leaves their property that they lived in for 30 or 40 years to a relative, but they live out of state or out of town, and they already have their own residence, and now they have mom or dad's property that was, lived in for, 30, 40 years. It's pretty dated. It might not make the best fit to go ahead and list it on the MLS. And let's face it, we live in a culture where the debt ratio is very, very high, and the thought of someone being able to come in and pay $100,000 or a couple $100,000 cash, depending on what market you're in, very quickly, the person who inherits that house is like, man, I'd rather take the cash and just be done with this. So I want to plant that seed, and there's dozens of more situations where the motivation, we're going to call this motivation, situation, or distress puts urgency on the situation, right? It puts urgency on the situation. So what we need to do is then position as a real estate investor. When you get started in the real estate investing world, if you just remember these two concepts, that you want to fish in the pool that's off market, that's going to help you rise above the competition. And then if we put all of our attention, all of our focus, not on ourselves, not on all the money that we can make and all these great, how amazing our business is and this and this and this. No, we put ourselves in the shoes of the person who's going through the problem, the problem that I was talking about, of the person who's going through that situation, the person that's going through the distress. And I think I have situation spelled wrong there, but that's okay. We put ourselves in their shoes, and we start to do certain strategic advertising to them. And we can do that for free, and we can do that for very, very low cost. And we're simply positioning our solution there in front of them. And by doing this, we then begin to find discounted properties, cheap properties, properties that have value built in, where all parties can win and benefit from the situation. So guys, I wanted to explain that because in this market that's a very, very hot market, one of the questions I get often are, Steven, like, how in the world am I going to get a deal for a discount that I can make money on, that potential partners, if I'm wholesaling the deal or investing in it myself with a partner or whatever the case is, how are we going to get a deal for 50, 60, 70, 80% when someone can go list it with a realtor and sell it for full asking price in 2 days? Like, how do I even have a shot? And my friend, I just simply want you to know that it happens all day, every day. There are so many deals out there, and yes, the situation that I just described, that happens for a lot of residential real estate, that the houses are in great condition. They are better suited a lot of times to go list it with a realtor, and they will sell quickly. But those are not the type of deals that we're after. That's not the pool or the pond that we're fishing in. We're going after off-market deals where there's a specific intense motivation and situation going on, where we can then help the seller out of that situation and provide a viable solution. But we always do it in a really cool way. We don't pressure them. We simply check in. We provide value. We educate them a little bit about some options and paint the picture of what it's going to look like. And oh my gosh, just by doing that, a very nonchalant approach, it is a game changer. So guys, if you like this video, definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel here. I'm going to be doing my very best to do daily uploads Monday through Friday, and I want to hear from you. If you liked this video, definitely subscribe. Go ahead and make sure you like the video and comment below. Let me know if you want to hear more about particular strategies of how to go after these type of properties, what type of marketing to do, and any other areas that you want help with in your real estate investing business. And there's a lot of cool topics we can talk about, so I'm excited to do some future videos on that. A couple of other things. Make sure when you subscribe to the channel to click that notification bell, so that way when I have a new video come out, you can be notified and you don't miss any of the really good content. It's my goal and intention to have this content here provide you a lot of value and to help you go out there and get your first or your next real estate deal done and just provide you a ton of value. So guys, I'm having a lot of fun making these. You can check out some other videos on my channel. I have one of the top real estate investing wholesaling videos on the market right now. And if you're interested in more information on that, you can always go below in the description. I have a step-by-step real estate wholesaling course, and I'm not going to pressure you or pester you or anything like that. But it is a very detailed course. I've had a ton of people go through it and get their first deal. And at the time of this recording, I am actually offering a 50% special on it. So instead of it being $997, it's $497. So you can go ahead and check that out below if you're interested. Again, my friend Stephen Howell here. I really enjoyed making this video. I hope you got a lot out of it. If you did, definitely be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you want to learn next. And today's Friday, so I will actually be back Monday, so January the 8th in my next video for you. And I have a lot of cool topics prepared, but again, I want to hear from you. What do you want to learn? And so yeah, it was my pleasure recording this. I'll see you in the next video, guys.